Hello everybody, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're safe, and thank you for looking at my vlogs. For this first vlog I thought I'd tell you a little bit about how to get more birds into your garden. Just a few tips I've picked up over the years. I've been involved with nature studies for at least 50 years now. So, some time ago, my wife and I noticed that there was no birds coming into the garden, and we really didn't know why this could be. And then we thought things through, and one of the things is I've cut the pyracantha down, which is a really thorny shrub, and that was about 6 feet or 2 or 3 meters, I should say, away from the feeding station. We realized that by cutting the pyracantha down, we'd cut down the safe place for the birds to go to. So we couldn't do anything about that. The next thing we noticed was that the bird feeder we had hanging up was getting clogged up. Now the trick is, if you're ever going to start a new station in your garden for birds to go to and feed from, only fill the feeders up by about halfway, I should say. The thing is, it takes the birds a long time, or maybe not a long time, about 10 days I would say, to find your feeding station, because they might be going to other areas to feed. But once they are feeding, you can then look at ways of feeding the feeders to the top, and there's all sorts of things I'll discuss in the future about that, but I just wanted to show you a quick tip I've learnt this morning. So here's a typical feeder. A couple of pounds I think we paid for it. But what we found out, that this particular feeder, you can see there that there's that where the birds land to feed, the plastic. And what we found out was that the birds, unless they were goldfinch, none of the other bird species could land on there. And I don't know why that is, because they have done in the past, but they weren't able to land on this particular one, so it must be some kind of a design defect. So I would avoid that one. Then if we have another look at another one, sorry about that. So this one's brand new, and you can see that it's got perches that are nail-like in, they look like nails, but they are much better, much substantial, far more substantial than the other perches, and they come out much farther, or I should say much further for them to rest on, and they seem to work better for us. More birds are coming to feed off these. Now there is a design problem on this one, and that is where you can see the thing in the middle, the apex, the mound. If you don't clean these on a regular basis, the feed builds up and it blocks these holes up and the birds can't get at the food. You have to keep an eye on that one, but it's a far better feeder than the last one. I like this one actually, as long as I keep it clean. But there's another design fault on it, and that is that in the middle there's a screw, and that screw sometimes comes adrift, and then these perches come adrift too. So you have to keep your eye on that one. But it's only very cheap, this one. I think it's about £2, and it's also got a metal top which rusts eventually, but you can get around that one later. I'll show you how to get around that one later. But for the time being, these are not bad at all. You may have your own preferences and stick to them, but as I say, if you're just starting out with a station, feeding station, just fill these feeders half full. Now the other tip is, not many people do this, but I always wear rubber gloves when I'm handling the feeders, and I've read it somewhere that it says you can catch what is it now? There is something you can catch if you're not clean when you are dealing with the seed. It'll come to me when I shut the film off, I'm sure. But wear gloves and wash your hands thoroughly after feeding the station, filling the feeding stations. So I'll just take it outside. It's a very windy day. It's just stopped raining, and I'll just show you in the garden itself. So it's October. You can see that I've been collecting all the leaves off the trees. The leaves are in these bags, by the way, and I have 4 or 5 more bags behind there. They'll all rot down and they'll make wonderful compost or mulch next year. I don't buy any compost at all. Now the thing about compost is that you can bring germs into your garden, but by doing my own compost, I don't bring anything in, and the flowers do very well, and we don't have much trouble from. We have lots of snails and things like that, and they don't appear to affect the flowers at all. So there's some leaves waiting to be put in bags, but the weather's so unpredictable today, I'm unable to do it. So what I do is I sweep the leaves up several times. I don't try and do it in one go, because it's when the leaves get wet, it's a very hard task to complete. So I do it in over several days. You can see that this needs cleaning out, but I'll leave that until all the leaves have fallen down, and they've nearly all come down. can see there that the tree's nearly bare. Around this corner oops, tripping up, I've left a pile of leaves which may be used by the hedgehog. We usually get hedgehogs every year. We're not forced to use them leaves, but we do leave them, and sometimes I do go under them. Still a few flowers in the garden. It's October, if I've not already mentioned that. And here we are. And the other thing is that when it becomes nasty weather, we move the household bin and the plastics bin, which is usually stored here and can't be seen from the house. We move the bins closer to where we have to come outside. And then these are clean bins, by the way. We keep them very clean inside. I wash them down every time, and to do that I just use a soft brush and soapy water, and then leave them to dry, and then that's it. They're lovely and clean all the time. They don't smell. So this is the feeding station then. And what we've got at the moment is we've got willow tit, blue tit, grey tit, collared doves, blackbirds, wren, robin. We haven't had a dunnock for a few days, so we're getting lots of species coming, but they're only coming first thing on a morning. So the larger birds go on the tray, smaller birds on there, and we get starlings on these fat balls as well. Now you can put a cowl over the top of these, cover these up so they don't get wet. I'm thinking about doing that next year, just as a trial. I have seen them used before and they do work. Around this corner we've got a couple of bug houses which are used for bug hibernation, and we also a couple of years ago had a leaf cutter bee, and that's a very fascinating bee to watch, and I'll explain that sometime. Anyway, for now at least, I think that's about it. You can see that it's just a bit of crude technology keeping the door open. And this particular shed is where I keep the lawnmower, and it has a straight run through, so I can go in and out without having to mess about. Everything's organised. This is covering the paint, and by putting that on there when it's frosty, it stops the paint from going funny, and if there's any left over from a job that we did, a decorating job that we did, we can then use it again next year. So little tips really. Everything has a place in this particular shed. I have two sheds, a small shed, that's this one, and a large shed. The small shed houses most of the paint, the furthest away from the house. So I think that's a good little tip for gardeners. Anyway, I'll stop there.